Hey, it's Tim, University of Vinyl. Thanks for tuning in again today. I'm going to switch gears again, and I want to move back into my ongoing jazz series called Deep Focus Jazz. This is episode 4. And check out the playlist. I've got a specific playlist for any jazz video that I put out. I've talked about this in the past, but as the gray continues to come into my head of hair, I am moving more into an appreciation of jazz and trying to build a respectable collection. Let's talk about collecting those classic Blue Note titles from the 50s and into the 1960s. And, you know, there are definitely Blue Note titles that are worth discovering and seeking out from the 1970s as well. Check out episode 1 of Deep Focus Jazz for more on that. Okay, if you are halfway interested in jazz, I'm sure you've heard about this amazing auction sale that was concluded by Fred Rosen at the Jazz Record Center in New York City for an original pressing of Coltrane's Blue Train. This is a reissue that came out last year. It is the Blue Note Classic Series, and it sounds amazing. And it can be had for $30. So that auction, there is an individual out there, a collector, an investor, that won an auction for $500 for the piece that Fred Rosen had up for auction. An amazing price. And frankly, you know what? Probably not all that surprising. People will always pay what they feel is the right price for them. If they're willing to pay for it and drive up an auction, everyone's happy. However, not all of us swim in the same circles like that, but a lot of people appreciate those records. That's what's so incredibly great about the Tone Poet series and the Classic series that Blue Note introduced 2 or 3 years ago now. You can now own really fantastic sounding pressings that are pressed on 180 gram vinyl, mastered by Kevin Gray, produced and curated by Joe Harley, and of course the entire operation is overseen by the Blue Note president, the great Don Was. These are a blessing for jazz collectors and people entering the hobby, over the last 5 years and looking for affordable copies. There is another route that you can take. You can actually find affordable pressings of these classic titles that are vintage, and many of these still use plates that were mastered by the great Rudy Van Gelder. Case in point, this was an incredible album, and I was really pleased to find this just last week at the Denver Record Show. A new perspective, and instead of opting for an original or even a second pressing, what I have in my hand here is a repress from 1973, and this was on the Black B logo with the deep blue label there. Van Gelder is into dead wax. And let me tell you about finding this record. So, I love to see people at record shows that only have like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 crates or boxes of records. They don't have table upon table upon table. They might not have like a holy moly wall behind them. And they're usually, someone who is a collector themselves And they've decided to kind of take a flyer at a record show. They purchased a small space, and they're kind of selling duplicates and special pieces that they're letting go. In this particular case, it was a single guy, really friendly. He had this priced at $22. It's in really nice condition, like VG Plus to near mint. I played this thing, it sounds flawless. The music, I wasn't familiar with this title. And a lot of people call this gospel jazz or spiritual because there's actually a choir that interweaves amongst these songs. But this is an incredible band behind this. The band includes Herbie Hancock, Kenny Burrell, Hank Mobley. You can't go wrong with this record. And if you do a quick scan on eBay, early pressings are, rising up there in price. And frankly, someone who is fairly new to jazz, the music is not going to move me. I'm not that motivated to go out and find these early pressings and spend between $200 and $1,000 in some cases. I'm just not going to do it. When I can find a perfectly sounding pressing that's still vintage, that still bears a Van Gelder stamp for $22, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. I'm going to save that extra money that I saved and put it into the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund and buy some shares in that. And at the same time, I'm going to sit back and really enjoy this beautiful record. And by the way, that cover is one of my favorite covers, and it's in like near mint condition. Big win as far as I'm concerned. I've got another example, a classic, one of my favorite Herbie Hancock titles from the 1960s. I love Empyrean Isles. I'm still looking for a later pressing of that. Those are pretty expensive right now. But how about Maiden Voyage? And I have a similar later pressing, 1973 again, with that black B and a deep blue label. Van Gelder in a dead wax. VG Plus record that I paid under $30 for in Longmont, Colorado about a year ago. Fantastic. Last but not least, and this artist is probably not in the upper echelon of those greats, but he's in the next level down, and I may be totally wrong. There may be people that are saying, what are you talking about, Tim? Booker Irvin deserves to be at the top. This was actually an original 1968 pressing. This was on the Blue Note Liberty label right there. And do you see that price? $16. I'm going to give a little shout out to Rob the Waxed. He does an auction, typically about once a month these days. And this guy is an indefatigable picker. He is out there, I don't know how many days a week that he's out looking for records, and he is finding gold in the greater Los Angeles area. And if you watch his auctions, you can benefit. I mean, $16, it's way below median on Discogs. Also VG Plus to near mint, and in this case it is an original. You just have to be, I think what this takes is being patient, waiting for opportunities, looking for opportunities, and typically I'm finding those opportunities in person. I am not going on Discogs or eBay, although you can find some under the radar things on eBay. You may have a seller that doesn't quite know exactly what they're doing, and they just want to move inventory and records that they may have found somewhere, you might be able to get lucky there. But it's a little bit of a crapshoot not being able to see that record in person and checking the condition and, you know, how is the cover, etc. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. That's episode 4 of Deep Focus Jazz, finding affordable Blue Notes. There are ways, and you just have to kind of take the snob element out of it and be happy with later pressings, particularly if they have Van Gelder in the dead wax. That's what we want as Blue Note collectors. You want that Van Gelder sound. And failing that, if you don't have the patience, go out and get the Tone Poets. Go out and get the Blue Note Classic Series titles. They're all amazing and they sound fantastic. But if and when I can, I want to hold out and look for those second or third represses that still have Van Gelder in a dead wax that still sound great. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I appreciate all of the views, all of the comments. Consider subscribing, and don't forget the new merch that I have in my merch store. The link is in the description. Take care, everybody.